The Bag of Groceries, a true story of kindness that came full circle. It was the 1930s. The Great Depression had gripped America, and families across the country were struggling to survive. In a small town in the Midwest, a young boy named James lived with his widowed mother and three younger siblings. His father had died 2 years earlier, and with no steady income, every meal was a blessing and a question mark. One chilly afternoon, James walked into a neighborhood grocery store. His shoes were too small, his coat had holes, and his hands trembled not from the cold, but from hunger, swallowing his pride. He approached the counter, where an elderly man stood polishing an apple. Mr. James said quietly, "I don't have any money, but I can work. Could I maybe sweep the floors or carry boxes for some food?" The shop owner, Mr. Miller, studied the boy's face for a moment. There was no deceit, no tricks, just desperation. He nodded slowly. "You can start by cleaning up those shelves." James worked the rest of the afternoon dusting, stacking, even mopping the floor. When the sun began to set, Mr. Miller handed James a modest paper bag, full of groceries, bread, beans, a bit of rice, and 2 red apples. Tears welled in James's eyes. "Thank you, sir. I'll be back tomorrow," and he was... Every day for weeks, James showed up. He worked without complaint, and never asked for more than he was given. Over time, Mr. Miller began to slip in an extra apples, or a can of soup. He never said anything, but James noticed and he never forgot. Years passed. James grew up and moved away to study. Through sheer grit and intelligence, he became a doctor. He eventually opened a clinic in the city and devoted his life to serving others, especially those who couldn't pay. One day, many years later, an elderly man was rushed to his hospital. He had collapsed and needed urgent surgery. Dr. James Martin didn't recognize the man at first, but something about his eyes seemed familiar. The operation was successful, but the cost was high. The old man had no insurance, no savings. A week later, the hospital administrator walked into Mr. Miller's room with the bill. Mr. Miller looked at it and sighed. He had no idea how he'd ever pay. Then he turned it over and froze. Scrolled in neat handwriting were the words, "Paid in full years ago with a bag of groceries. Dr. James Martin." Mr. Miller began to cry. Morale: you never know how far a simple act of kindness can reach. Sometimes the good you do comes back to you when you least expect it, often in the most beautiful, unexpected ways.